my talented and wonderful husband of 37 years, Mr. Barry Cahill. Let's have a big hand for him and while he adjusts his mouth, just keep on talking. I'm always, and I'm not just saying this, I know I say this often, but I'm constantly amazed by Barry. Not that I'm biased, because I am biased, but it's also the truth. He has so much knowledge. Every morning we sit for coffee and we sit there with the cats, and he's always telling me something that I didn't know before. Okay, I'm finished, Eddie. But anyway, let's have a hand for Mr. Barry Cahill.
Thank you, honey. Oh, that's good and loud. Okay. So the title of my talk today is Center of the Cyclone, Finding Inner Peace in a Turbulent World. When Delene was 7 years old, her mom walked into the room and said, "Delene, your room looks like a cyclone struck it." And like any 7-year-old, she said, "What's a cyclone struck it?" I think it's fair to say we are living in turbulent times. Politics, wars, climate change, environmental issues, hurricanes, cyclones, floods, and wildfires. Seems nowadays we can't get the water thing right. We either got too much or too little. Cyberbullying on social media, and these ever-increasing complexities of our modern world. Perhaps you have your own personal issues that make you feel like you're being blown about by a hurricane or a cyclone. Maybe things that would have been non-issues decades ago. My piece of crap computer went down again. Did we really worry about those kind of things back in the 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s? No, we didn't. Many of us, especially as we get older, long for the good old days, for simpler times. But it seems highly unlikely that things will get simpler, at least on the level of human civilization, because the human mind, being the way it is, can't help but make things more complex. And guys, I'm going to go back to my other classes, because this book is too far away for these. And too close for these classes. Meeny, miny, mo. Okay, we'll go with these now. That's a little better. Notice I have two pairs of glasses that look almost identical. I can't tell them apart without my glasses. It seems highly unlikely that things will get any simpler. Because we tend to, with the human mind and ego, want to complicate things. And there's this insatiable appetite for more. More money, more buildings, more knowledge, more muscle like Arnold. We want to pass more laws, buy more stuff, more. This is the song of the ego. But not only that, it seems that in spite of the warnings of our best and brightest experts in science, and the constant things they tell us, we as a society seem unwilling to make even the slightest changes, let alone any sacrifice for the greater good of all. What's a human being to do? Well, first of all, take a deep breath. We all know from the science of mind and perhaps other teachings that there is a part of us that is above the chaos. Every night when we are in deep fourth stage sleep, there is no thinking. There is literally no mental activity. And at least for a few hours a night, no problems. Because we've stopped thinking about our problems. As a religious science teacher years ago told me when I first got into this, and I'm sorry I can't remember his name, it was decades ago, and he was a guest minister. But he said something really insightful that stuck with me for years. He said, the mind is a wonderful servant, but it is a terrible master. Eckhart Tolle put it this way. The mind is like a tool. When you're finished with it, you put it away. You wouldn't say, take a drill, make a hole in a piece of wood, and say, okay, that's nice. And then carry the drill around with you all day going bzz, 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 making holes and everything, would you? That would be rather foolish. But yes, that's exactly the kind of things people tend to do with their minds. When they're finished using the mind for, say, creative problem solving, rather than set the mind aside and just be, the mind starts stirring up its incessant chatter and thus creating more problems for its owner. Remember, you are not your mind, you have a mind. If our minds were a house guest, they would last 3 days, which, as Ben Franklin once so famously quipped, is about the time when fish and guests start to smell. Yes, we all know we live in turbulent times, but is it possible that we make our own little slice of reality even worse by mulling it over, thinking about it, talking about it, complaining about it, worrying about it, getting angry about it, and stewing in the sauce of our own negative thinking? I believe that's exactly what we do. Yes, there are problems. There are things out in the world that need to be dealt with, no doubt about it. And yes, we make them worse with the mind. Since we become what we think about, we're going to get more of the same. As he said in the reading, the seeds we plant today are the crops we reap tomorrow. The truth is, the world will continue turning, whether or not we stew about it. And people in positions of authority will probably continue to do things for, shall we say, less than altruistic reasons. You know that old song, money makes the world go round. And I don't mean to sound fatalistic, but in my lifetime, I've seen some really incredible positive changes. The civil rights movement, women's rights, a broader acceptance of the LGBTQ community. Hey, how about this one? No smoking indoors or on airplanes. That's a very positive change, you know? Yeah, we still got a long way to go, but I believe we have also come a long way in a relatively short period of time. But in some areas, don't you think sometimes human civilization seems bent on self-destruction? And I won't go down the laundry list, but if you watch the news, you know what I'm talking about. But here's the thing. Human civilization has always been turbulent. Think of the Roman Empire. Think of the American Civil War. Boy, there's an oxymoron, huh? Civil War. That was a good one. Or how about the Great War? And if that wasn't enough, let's have another World War. Yeah. We're going to have to call it World War II and change the name of the Great War to World War I because now we got two of them. There really were no good old days. Things have changed, but the problems remain. They just seem to be getting bigger because they're being magnified by technology and the increase of population on the planet. Now, knowing all of this can actually be quite liberating. Huh? If you are willing to accept our current reality and to see it as it is, and for what it is, a symptom of the human ego. Now, by accept, I do not mean, and I want to be really clear about this, sit idly by and do nothing. I'm going to meditate my problems away. If you feel called to action, yes, by all means, take some action. But to resist the situation mentally, and here's the dividing line. Here's the situation, here's you. Now what do? To resist the situation mentally and emotionally, to get all worked up and stressed out about it, does nobody any good, especially yourself. This is why people have strokes and heart attacks. They get all stressed out about stuff that's beyond their control. So how do we get beyond it? How do we accept it? Well, first of all, we need to go to the center of the cyclone, the place for peace, where all creative solutions originate. And the good news is that's already who you are. At your essence, that's who you are. It's not something you have to go out and get. It's who you are. Acting out of fear, worry, frustration, anger will only give you more of the same. I'm sure we can all think of examples of this in our own lives. But any truly creative person will tell you that the mind plays only a secondary, minor role in the act of creation. So if you want to create a better world, thinking about it, stewing about it, is not the solution. How many of you have heard of Napoleon Hill in his famous book, Think and Grow Rich? It's one of the best sellers of all time. He talks about a man in there who was paid by a major corporation to basically sit in a dark room. Why did they pay him to do this? Because when he would sit in a dark room, he could come up with creative solutions. If they were working, for example, on a new invention, a new machine, but they just couldn't get it over the finish line, they would tell this man, okay, now here's what we've got so far. Okay, so he would sit in this dark room, lights out, with nothing but a desk, a pen, and a pad of paper. And he would sit there and he'd say, okay, I'm thinking about the machine. Okay, here's what's going on. Here's where the stumbling block is. And then he would ask the question, what's the solution? And then he would shut his mind down and listen. And time again, he would start getting a flood of ideas, writing them down so fast he could barely turn the pages fast enough to get his ideas down. Then he would go to the engineers and say, try this. And it worked. Time and time again, that's what this man did. And they paid him good money to do this. That's all he did. He didn't get out there and tinker around or, put a wrench to it or anything. He just came up with solutions. In my own life, being a songwriter, sometimes I'll come up with a good idea for a song, but I just can't quite figure it out with the brain. So I will sit there and close my eyes I use a computer now, not a pad of paper, and I say, okay, what wants to happen here? And I'll start hearing a melody. And a lot of times the melody is as if someone else were singing it, complete with words, and I'm typing as fast as I can to get them down. It's amazing what the divine intelligence has to offer up. As Ernest Holmes put it, the founder of our teaching, there is a power for good in the universe, emphasis mine here, and you can use it. You can use it. It is there. And I would go a step further and say, not only can you use it, it is who you are. If we can get our minds to quiet down long enough, an amazing flood of creative solutions will come forward. Now for today's talk, we want to focus on inner peace in a turbulent world. So as opposed to thinking about tangible things that we might want, such as a new car, a better job, a fulfilling relationship, a healing of another relationship, today we're going to do this little exercise for inner peace. Remember, the peace which passeth all understanding resides within us. So how do you get to it? Well, first of all, acknowledge that you can because others have. You can live in the eye of the cyclone. No matter what's going on around you, you can come to a still place in the middle. Second, quiet the mind. And the best way to still the mind is by following the breath. It's interesting, you can't think random, worrisome thoughts while you're focusing on your breathing. We're going to try this in a minute. It is the essential foundation of all meditation practices, watching the breath. No matter what the religion, you start by watching the breath. So let's do this. Let's just breathe in. And as we're breathing in, almost like feel the air entering your body. Feel your lungs expanding. The mind will start to pick up thoughts. Let them go. And stay centered in the breath. Now feel into the body as you're breathing. Don't think about it, just feel into it. You can either start with the extremities like the hands and feet, or you can start at your core, at your heart, for example. And feel the life force in your entire body. You may feel a tingling in your hands that you didn't notice before. That is feel your body, your entire body as one continuous energy field. Thoughts will come, thoughts will go, but just feel into it. Now you are at the center of the cyclone, where infinite peace emanates from. And from this place, let us affirm what it is we want, which for today's purpose is inner peace amidst all the turmoil. We can see all of this stuff going on around us. Just let those winds blow and stand in the center. Abide in the peace that passes all understanding. The world will continue turning. The human world will continue spinning all of its webs. But we don't need to buy into it emotionally. We can abide in a place of peace as a witness to all the goings on, and even as a witness to ourselves, witnessing these goings on. Good news is, you can practice this any place, any time, even while driving. Now don't close your eyes, obviously, when you're driving. But you can just focus on your breath, feel into your body. And if you're finding yourself really stressed and pressed about something, then yes, go to a quiet place where you can close your eyes and really meditate. And from this place of inner peace, real solutions to your problems will begin to appear. Let's just give you an example here. Say you just had a very unsettling argument with a friend or relative about the current state of political affairs. Not all that uncommon today. You both walked away in a huff with nothing resolved. You feel like that other person is an idiot. And it gnaws at you all day long. Because this was a good friend, let's say. So what do? Well, you take a few deep breaths and feel in the body. Also, there's another thing you can add to this, which Vincent Ho Chin taught me years ago. He's a Taoist master. Sometimes when you're really stressed, you might feel heat or tension in a particular part of the body. For me, it's always right here. And sometimes it's up here in the temples. It might be in your shoulders or your neck. And you hold your tension there. Well, what do? You breathe into that area. Just let that tension go out. And it may take several breaths if you had a particularly troubling incident. But just do that. Watch what happens. Think about this incident again, and that tension will be less. Let it go a few more times. Think about the incident again, and you'll notice the tension is almost non-existent. A couple days later, it may come back. Keep repeating this process and release that stress, release that energy. It's amazing. And the nice thing is, from this deep place of peace, you will come up with a solution to heal this relationship. You may feel compelled to have a conversation. Or you may just let it go on your end. Maybe you'll both agree not to talk politics again. But if the answer comes from this place of deep peace and not from the ego, chances are very good that the issue will be resolved in a satisfactory manner for both parties. You may remember the argument as time goes on, but it won't have that emotional charge to it. It'll be just a memory, not a big emotional deal. Mahatma Gandhi said this. I think it was a wonderful, one of the most brilliant things, and he said a lot of them. Be the change that you want to see. Now, we all want peace on earth. We sing a song every day, in every service. And, any sane person will want peace on earth. And this can only come about when the vast majority of people have that deep, abiding inner peace. If the entire species is in ego-based upset most of the time, we will continue to get more of what history has given us thus far. We will just keep chasing our tail. And around the world goes. Remember that old hippie bumper sticker from the 60s? Posed the question, what if they gave a war and nobody came? As if somebody was throwing a party called war. Well, I submit to you that if every human being on the planet had deep inner peace, nobody would come to the war party. And the guy throwing the war party would simply be looked at as ridiculous. Why would we want to do that? Peace on earth does indeed begin with inner peace. And when enough people reside at the center of the cyclone, others will begin to follow. Remember slavery? Aside from a few gangs on the planet, it's outside the law. It has been illegal for all intents and purposes for a century. And yet, only 160 years ago, it was a reality in this country. And given the scope of human history, that's a blip on the radar. We had to fight a war to eliminate it, but enough people saw it as immoral and were willing to do whatever was necessary to change the status quo regarding slavery or smoking on airplanes. We are making progress. I'm optimistic that in our lifetime, or even the next generation perhaps, humanity will come to look at military aggression in the same way. When enough people have the consciousness to simply not participate in that kind of insanity, it will be impossible to have war. I think, for example, in the Ukraine-Russia situation today, what if all the Russian generals and soldiers told Putin, are you nuts? You really want to do that? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be a part of it. I refuse to be a part of it. Well, that plan would have just died a very quick death then, wouldn't it? I believe that in spite of the headlines, the trend of human consciousness is always upward. Now, we've had our fits and spasms along the way, but I believe, like the stock market in some good years, it's kind of one of these. It generally goes up, but now and then we have to have a little setback to kind of readjust and reset our course. But in the meantime, practice inner peace. Blessed be the peacemaker, a quote from Jesus on the Sermon on the Mount, one of his most famous. Now, of course, to be a peacemaker, one must first have inner peace. And that peace is always available to you like the calm in the center of a storm. We can enter that state anytime because that is who we are as spiritual beings. Infinite peace, infinite wisdom, infinite joy, infinite love is all the core reality of our humanity. We are not anger, frustration, worry, fear, or hatred. These are conditioned responses of the ego. And here's the good news, when they arise, life is sending you a message. And that message is, find your center, find your inner peace, go there now. Release and let go. Forgive. Namaste.